Good morning. This is Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined as always by Manchester United legend Paul Parker to talk over a good week for Manchester United, a couple of wins in there, which is a rare occurrence indeed for us this season. Not this season, in general. If you're watching, please like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to get your questions and comments in. And if you're watching the replay, say hello. We do still comment to the replies and comments that we get. If you're listening back on the audio platform, please be sure to give us a subscription and a review on the platform you're listening on. Paul, more than the results this week and more than the results was the performances that we were looking forward to seeing or hoping that we'd see. And you look at the games, and really, one of the big things you're looking at is hoping to get a reaction from the derby. And there were two things to look at really from that. The first is that we got the result. Well, three things to look at. The first is that we got the results and the somewhat performances. The second is that Ten Hag didn't make big changes; he made a few. And the third is that he has a clear way that he wants to play, and he didn't really deviate from that after the Manchester derby. He sort of doubled down and said, "I'm still going to try and play this way, even if I'm going to mix up the teams." So he went ahead as we sort of predicted he would. We felt after the derby that it'd be now the time for Casemiro to start. So really, it was a big week for the manager and a big one for the players. United have won in Cyprus, and we'll talk about that in a second, and obviously against Everton as well. How do you view the week? Do you think it's been a good response after what we saw in the derby?
Well, the response that United needed was to stop the rot, to be honest, really, and get some wins under the belt. The thing I think for me anyway, what I always say that you always look for a performance. That's what you look for, and to be honest, when you look at performance wise, it wasn't really that good performances, but it was about getting over the line, and that's what mattered. When you look at it, you go to Cyprus and you come back with a 3-2 win. You think, you know that's not right, really. It should be better than that, a lot better than that. And then you go to Goodison and you get a win at Goodison for United since you have to say since after Sir Alex, you have to say that's a great win to go and win at Goodison Park.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. We'll talk about ammonia then for a second. You said but before we get to that, a couple of comments in the thing. John says, good morning, lads." Ben, we'll come to his comment in a moment, but he says morning, but he's talking about the Everton game, and we'll get to that in a minute. So ammonia, sorry, they gave it a good account of themselves. They took the lead. It was the game of their lives, and they played accordingly. United, I felt after the break, they did well to execute a professional job. Martial comes on, Rashford comes on. They were both particularly good, both got on the score sheet. I think in that respect, like I said, good or impressive would be a stretch, but I think probably professional job is the best way to describe what United did in Europe. And that's, I mean, considering what happened in the derby, yeah, you do want to see a big performance, but considering how well Ammonia did play and how well they raised themselves for the occasion, coming back with the result was paramount, wasn't it? For Ten Hag, he couldn't afford a slip up in that one.
No, he couldn't. He couldn't afford it. I mean, for himself, and the football club couldn't have done it. To be perfectly honest, I think the football club would have seriously struggled. Fans, it could have sent it to maybe levels that people just don't want to go back to if that game had gone the wrong way after what happened in the Derby game as well. So and as well that win was needed, especially going into that Goodison game at Goodison Park, because everybody was sitting there waiting for United to falter at
Yeah,
Goodison Park as they had done in recent seasons. To be honest, they've gone there and they've just been walked all over at Goodison, but they went there this time and they were definitely combated what they was up against off the field and dealt with it on the field as well. Because Everton, at the moment in time, are just trying to get this kind of siege mentality when
yeah,
teams go there and play. They do really try and make it very, very hostile, which didn't really work given the way United stood up, it didn't work.
No, it was flat, wasn't it? I mean, you
Mm.
do. I mean, that is the thing about Goodison, and you're quite right. If I say it's been a graveyard for managers, I don't mean it's literally caused the sacking of it. It did with David Moyes, but I mean, Solskjaer went on record, didn't he? I think I don't know. There's been at least three big beatings that we've taken there, and one under Moyes, which got him the sack. One under Solskjaer, in which he said only a few of these players are going to carry on playing for United. And then at the back end of last season, we only lost one, but it felt like it was like three or four because of the way we were so flat. But they have been in good form recently, and you were thinking, all right, we were saying this on the podcast last week. It's a very good test for United because you're going to see, Ten Hag had obviously got a good reaction from them before with the Liverpool game and everything that happened. So are you going to see a reaction this time round? And I felt the atmosphere was quite flat. I don't know if it was because of the evening kickoff as well on a Sunday night that a few people winding down after the weekend. Difficult to raise yourself for it, but I mean you can only play the 90 minutes, and I felt yeah, all right. The second half wasn't particularly brilliant, but the first half I felt we were really confident. We controlled the game. I felt like the mistake for the goal was kind of like a slip in the sort of passage of play. Because other than that, I thought the first half was really accomplished. It's probably the best that we've played since Ollie's, was it not his last away game, but the game at Spurs, where we sort of came out fighting a little bit about a year ago after the Liverpool games. It's one of the most impressive performances on the road in the first half, at least. And Casemiro, obviously, he recovers from the error, puts in a decent performance across the game. Not particularly brilliant, but still, that was his first start. He's finding his feet, finding his range, finding his position in that midfield with Eriksen and Fernandes around him. I felt he recovered very well from that first moment where he did the slip, which I think, you know what I mean, a player of that experience, you would expect that, but in the Premier League, you never can take it for granted. Martial started well until he got the injury, and then Ronaldo came in and did well himself, scoring the goal and generally, not looking off the pace or anything. We'll talk about the individuals in a moment, but the performance, Paul, in the first half, it was quite accomplished. One of the things that we've looked at over this sort of last year or two, even because before we were praising it, is that this team seems to have a really good sense of, or the squad seems to have a really good sense of resilience within it. They didn't always have to wait until half time to get a rocket. You know what I mean? They could pull themselves together and do that. Over the last year, of course, we've seen a massive drop off in that, and you've questioned, not you, but in general, people have questioned the players' sort of resilience and the character. So to come back from the early setback yesterday and take complete control and secure the points in the comeback before half time, it was an impressive show from the players, wasn't it?
It was, without a doubt. The hardest thing now is for these players is that they've got to go and do it again.
Yeah.
The next game is, I always say this, but I think it's a fact, the next game is it's just as important as the last one, to be perfectly honest,
Yeah.
because they have to go and get, when they go to a place where they found it difficult over the last few seasons and they get 3 points, there's no point wasting that by going into your next game and go and deliver another poor performance with a bad result.
Mm.
It doesn't make any sense. If you can stand up and be brave enough to go and play at Goodison and give a resilient performance like that, you've got to follow it up with something decent as well. And you have to remember, up against the next game, Premier League game, I should say, is up against, in theory, the draw specialists at the moment, Newcastle.
Yeah.
They get
Yeah.
results, and they're on a massive high. They will see themselves coming to Old Trafford and being on the same level as Manchester
Yeah.
United.
And
That's
they've
how,
only
that's how.
lost
Go on, sorry,
only
go on.
lost. Yeah, they've only
Yeah,
lost once this season as well. So yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah.
They definitely draw specialists at the moment.
Yeah, and so therefore see themselves being as big as United. That's how Newcastle see themselves now. They've got all this money behind them and been able to compete. So the thing they have to, and the atmosphere will be very, very big because the Geordies will make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So as I can remember from my times of playing against Newcastle throughout my career, and definitely at Old Trafford as well. So So that's what. So it's quite good, really, in that sense that they've got another big game to go into. And on this
Yeah,
side of it, not everyone's suddenly going to be sitting there expecting United to win this game. Everyone will believe, and I think they're right, that it's going to be a very, very tight game.
yeah. So let's get into the individual performances. Casemiro, his first start in the league at least, and yeah, easy. It's easy to say an error led to the goal, but I mean, players lose possession all the time, and you've got to credit Iwobi because it was a fantastic shot. Do you know what I mean? You can't just say he just gave away a goal because he still had a lot of work to do. Ben says in the comments, "Morning, gents. Nice to see Casemiro start. Strikes me that one, the more he plays, the better he'll be, and two, the pass for the goal. I'd not see McTominay making that pass. I mean, that's a fair call. What did you make of Casemiro? A little bit of a mixed bag, but sort of, when you're looking at a player of that stature finding his feet in the midfield, you're talking about a player who's played alongside Kroos and Modric for sort of the better part of a decade. So he's use of like knowing economy of possession is quite different. I mean, Ericsson's similar, but Fernandez is not. So he's still finding his sort of feet in that kind of area. BT Sport gave him the man of the match. I felt that was a little bit generous, but what did you make of his performance?
I thought his performance was, given where he had to go and start and play at Goodison and everything else around him, the fact of where the team were at that given time after what happened in the Manchester derby and in Europe, the performance there, I would say that he done well, and I think he can only in theory get better. And what he does once the players all get used to the way he is and
Yeah,
the way he plays, he will definitely he will add something a little bit better, more rounded in that midfield. Something that's kind of been missing. Someone who's going to be economical with the ball. He's not going to go and do outstanding things, but he'll do stuff. He'll make the simple stuff look incredible because
yeah,
people go wow because he'll just do it simple. He won't try and be rolling his foot over the ball and looking lefts and rights and one touch, two touch, maybe three at the most, and it's done. It's delivered. A bit like
yeah,
Martinez in the back line. He gets the ball, doesn't play many more than three touches, and within maybe that second or third touch, he's bypassed the front line and knocked the ball through the midfield.
yeah, yeah,
So he will get the play moving quicker when it's right, and it will slow it down when it's not needed to the game to be quick. More so if United are in control of the game, i.e. they're winning it, he will try and make the team better at keeping the ball. That's what he'll do. And somebody like that, and you've got Ericsson as well, is that someone like Fernandez will have to understand that, and it might get him learning a little bit because they'll be on to him if he's not keeping the ball and he's thrashing the ball all over the place, trying his Hollywood passes. They'll have to pull him into shape. If they don't pull him into shape, then I think he's the one who's going to feel it because, as we've seen already, the teams that compete in this league, the teams that are doing well, keep the ball, Wayne. They keep the ball in midfield. Yes, they do give it away, but they don't give it away as quickly as what Manchester United do. If you look at the top sides, or what they call them in the Premier League, United are the most wasteful in
yeah,
midfield compared to the rest of them. Brighton are up there with the big boys.
yeah,
So it does tell you that they need someone like Casemiro in there who's brave enough to keep the ball. And what you will find as well with those kind of players is that other players respect him. So he'll learn the right to get more time on the ball because players will be scared to go near him because of his ability with keeping the ball and playing the game while he's got the ball. If someone puts their foot in the wrong area and he can see he's got nowhere to go, he will fall over. But
yeah,
what it is that when he does get the ball, teams know that if they can't close him down quickly, they'll be worried about where he's going to pass. So straight away, they'll look at their positions and he'll get that bit more time in the ball. That's called respect. That's
yeah.
what top players get.
Possession with purpose, isn't it? That's what you've seen
Yeah,
with United. With the players that they've brought in, Ericsson, Martinez, and Casemiro, it's always looking about progressing the play and moving United further up the pitch. Which I mean, seems like you've said, seems like a simple thing to do, and these players are very good at doing it in a simple way. But not always the case that is in effect. Some of the fringe players, Paul, they've been called into do well. Shaw's been recalled into the team because Molass's had a rough couple of weeks, and Shaw looks fit. It looks. The thing is with Shaw is that you give him a significant threat to his place in the team, and then you see the best out of him, which it's not ideal for for a player at United that you get that. But that's the Luke Shaw that we've got at the moment. Lindelof came in and it was a physical kind of game, the kind of game that I've seen him bullied in the past, and there were a couple of question marks when Rondon and Calvert-Lewin came on, but he passed the test. Martial looks all right in the side. Dalot, big question marks over him because of what happened to him in the derby, but he sort of stepped up and sort of proven himself in the last couple of games. What do you make of these players? Because these are all players that we can fairly say. Martial, maybe not so much, but Scholl, Lindelof, and Dalot, you would look at them and say, all right, they're probably not going to be in a team. Well, they won't be in a United team, first team that wins the title because their history has told us that. But they could all be capable squad players, and they're stepping up and stepping into the team and doing the job at the moment. What do you make of their performances over the last couple of weeks?
I look at Dallo, and Dallo had a good spell. Then I think he's been found wanting. He got a bit like Malacca in that Arsenal game. He got found wanting up against Martinez. Is it Martinez? Martinez, isn't it, on the left hand side?
Yeah.
Is it for Arsenal? So he got found wanting a little bit with him, and we always talk about him. He gets too wound up about having to win the ball. He's got no patience. So I always wonder, has he always been a defender, or has he become a defender because he's too impetuous in what he wants to do? I look at Lindelof. I thought Lindelof done well. He's done really well when he's come in. Been very composed, not erratic.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I'll ask the question: why was he so erratic before? But yet he wasn't. He hasn't been erratic next to Martinez.
Yeah.
I won't deliver the answer on that one, but there you are. Take a guess. I look at Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw was solid. Still has issues with blocking people when he doesn't want to run, but he was definitely better. And as you said, leading up to Luke Shaw, is that Luke Shaw does well when it matters for him to do well. The problem is when he thinks he's made it, he's cut it. That's when he starts getting sloppy and lazy. And you can even see it in his appearance, gets sloppy and lazy as well, in the way he looks. You looked at him yesterday and he looked a lot smarter going onto the field than what he has done for quite a while, even though he still needs to pull his socks up properly. But I just think his appearance sums him up sometimes and what he is as a player, scruffy and a little bit lazy. Now, I didn't see that. Now, his biggest problem is consistency in keeping himself right and doing a job. Now, I don't know whether or not Ten Hag has made his mind up about his left back yet, or he suddenly might have realised that Malacca that may not have been the right place for him, given what they're like, the Everton crowd, and how close it is. But we'll only find out next weekend.
Yeah.
What's going to happen there, really, to find out whether or not he's made his mind up on what he's going to start with in another big game for Manchester United.
Anthony, 3 games in the league, 3 goals, beautifully taken goal again, as it was in the derby and as it was against Arsenal. He's got that. It's the trick. Everyone's saying it's a one trick, but it's pretty good if it works every game. Opens the body up and finishes. Look, let's be right about it. Arsenal at home, City away, Everton away. The 3 fairly big environments to come in and play those games. So to score with that kind of composure is very impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it has been impressive for him. I'm still a little bit in the sense of I just want to see a little bit more, Wayne. I know goals make a difference. Goals can cover over any cracks in someone's game. They cover, as we've seen with Marcus Rashford in that sense. But I just look at it and I just want to see that bit more of him. I really want to see him go out and take someone and go past them.
Yeah.
I want to see someone. I want to see a Ryan Giggs.
Yeah.
Go at somebody and pin them down and take them on. That's the bit. I think I think Scholesy was alluding to it. He done an interview which I read the other day, and he said it, and I think that's what he's alluding to. And I think Scholesy's speaking as the way he is, and about how much everything about how he feels United, and that's the bit he sees United wide players going past people,
Yeah,
not now and again wanting to go past people, and after a while, then you start maybe coming inside and maybe just playing in front of them, and then when they get close again, then you go at them and pin them down.
yeah,
And I think that's what Scholesy was alluding to when he was saying it. And we look at the moment, United haven't got that from any of their wide players. There was a reason why Sancho wasn't playing, didn't start,
yeah,
because he doesn't go past people. He doesn't run without the ball beyond people to try and get on the end of the ball. And that's the bit I really want to see United do. They don't do that in wide areas. They don't get in behind teams or threaten to get in behind. So that's
yeah,
something that's still missing, which there's always been something about it. It's you. I mean, you know more than what I do, Wayne. You can talk about United all day long through the years and the players who played in wide areas and what they've gone and done. And at the moment, that's one bit that's really missing at this moment. And I think other teams may be in a similar position finding those wide players, but I think it's something to do with football at the moment in the academies. I don't. I'm just wondering in academies now, have they stopped players taking players on round the outside and virtually saying step inside and keep trying to curl it all the time, which is great when it comes off, but it's frustrating if you're a centre forward and you want the ball crossed
yeah,
from
yeah,
out from the outside. 'Cause there's nothing better than someone getting behind the back four, actually behind them and crossing, so centre forwards can come in and go bang and attack it,
yeah.
rather than the ball swinging inwards and you don't know whether or not it's a cross or a shot. And I don't know. Maybe I just need to have a look at Anthony as a player and see how he played. What was he doing when he was an Ajax player? That
Yeah, well,
maybe.
he was doing the same things, playing from the right. Obviously, the defenses are weaker, so he can have a little bit more joy with the tricks. And there was a little period in yesterday's game at Everton where he played on the left. Just I think it was after the first goal, he sort of moved over there for a little bit, and you wondered if you might see him sort of like try and do that, like run
Mm,
down the line and everything. It's funny you mentioned that it was kind of like the route for the goal, wasn't it? The Casemiro plays in Ronaldo, he's in front of the defense. This is the difference with Ronaldo is that he's come, even if he's not the best at it anymore, he's still confident running with the ball in front of a defender. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily have to get behind him. He's confident in his own ability to do that, and that's what resulted in the goal. A little bit of history 'cause it's his 700th career goal. That's like the 405th landmark moment we've seen in the year since we've re-signed him. Um, what do you make of it? Obviously, I had a troubled night on Thursday, Paul, but if you've got a Ronaldo who's feeling confident, maybe he's got the thing off his back now. Do you know what I mean? He needed to score that 700th, and you might see him sort of a little bit more relaxed. Um, I thought he did well yesterday. Martial, obviously, a very different kind of player. Martial looked like he was starting quite well. And then he came off, Ronaldo off as a different kind of threat. But I thought he played well when he, not just the goal, I thought he sort of contributed well to the overall game. What did you make on Ronaldo's goal and his overall performance?
well, the goal was decent, but a good thing, and for everybody, is that now he scored it. Then maybe now the players won't feel so obliged that they've got to worry about him scoring his goal because it's not really what I thought football was all about. Because if I wanted to be involved in an individual sport, I wouldn't be playing football.
Yeah,
Football is about a team winning, not one person getting, scoring a goal to break a record or create a record or to get to a number that has got two zeros at the end.
yeah,
I think it should be better than that, and I think they got caught up in that when they was in
yeah,
in Cyprus. They got caught
yeah,
up. They got caught up in that, and it shouldn't be that way. And him, with his experience, should never have allowed it to get that way. But that tells you that the players feel or felt obliged to get it there, and that tells you maybe what it's like being around Ronaldo at the training ground and everywhere around because of that aura he's got about him, and they mostly felt that they better deliver that to maybe make things easier, which is a concern, to be perfectly honest. And he's done well. Does he start the next game? I think we have to say yes, because again, Martial will be injured.
Yeah.
Will he start against Newcastle? I think we have to say yes, because Martial will not play on Thursday. Martial, I don't know how that injury is, but I don't know. I wonder how strong, his pain threshold is, Martial. Does he
Yeah.
want to play? Does he want to play? Does he want to be 100% fit? Because if he wants to be 100% fit, then he's just got to stop playing now and maybe do a little bit during the summer, not too much because he could get injured, and maybe he'll start next season. That's how it's going to be. I just I'm just not understanding this, especially when he just come back. You just want someone to say, "I'm going to have a go here and prove a
Yeah.
point." And so unless he went off with his leg hanging because it was broken, I really can't see it. Some people might feel, well, that's out of order. He could be injured, but I know that majority of players during they felt something, and especially when they've been out a while and they feel they want to be involved again and they want to prove a point, they would play through it and worry about the repercussions after. You're
Yeah.
never going to get that from Martial and maybe a lot of the modern day footballers.
Yeah, Ben says, delighted that you mentioned about wingers. We really need someone willing to go past the fullbacks and cross Garnacho. I mean, it was suggests Garnacho. That wasn't me suggesting that, but I don't necessarily disagree with it. Garnacho, Paul, you're going to probably presume he's going to get time in Europe, especially the next couple of games at home. Depending on how United navigate those, Garnacho should get some minutes, you would think, to at least test him and give him some game time in the first team, because that's how you establish how confident a player's composure is at that level. And he does offer something different. He does offer that ability to sort of the directness to get past a fullback. Do you think that it would be a good time to play him, or do you think that with the sort of options that we've got, the likes of Alanga, that it might be you're still better off giving those players minutes with the
No, no, I don't. Um, I think you got to give him a go. You have to give him a go. And when he has come on, you've seen that drive about him. That's something that I think is missing. There's no great drive, and the way he wants to go past somebody. Yes, he's gonna get tackled, but he wants to do it. He wants to keep going. He's clever enough to know that once he's done that, he's driven the fullback back. He knows then he can drop off and he'll have space in front of him, because the fullback doesn't want to keep wanting to make tackles all the time. He doesn't want. He's worried about the ball in behind for him to run, and he's worried about him dribbling, and that creates space. Someone, people always ask me when I play, who's the toughest winger you come against, and I always say, when I went to United, I become a fullback again after my Fulham days.
yeah,
After my Fulham days, the first time I became a fullback again was when I was playing for Manchester United. Prior to that, it was only when I played for England or
yeah,
little bits in there. And I always keep saying I never, because there was always more concerned about defending Andre from the front and helping out their fullback. And I don't know when it was. It must have been last night or the night before. I was in bed. I don't know why. I woke up and head's going. And I suddenly thought to myself, there was a winger that drove me absolutely mad. Every time I played against him, he used to frustrate me all the time because I couldn't get close enough to him when 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 the opposition had the ball, because of his positional sense. And that was Rick Holden.
yeah, yeah,
Rick Holden at Oldham. I
yeah,
absolutely went those couple of years, and I'd never come across Rick before. I think I come up against him at City. I remember him at City, and I don't know if I was in a QP, but I don't know if I was a QPR player then. But then I wouldn't have been anywhere near him because I'd been in the middle. But at United, I come up against him three, four, five times,
yeah,
and every single time, all he'd done, it was a bit like a John Robinson. As the saying used to be, get chalk on your heels. Rick Holden just stood in that left touch line. Ball's on the other side of the field. I could always see him there. I didn't want him to get the ball. Didn't want it, but there's no way I could actually get across and stop him getting the ball feet. And what he'd done, he wasn't the quickest, but he had these long rangey running, and he used to run, stop. But he had this art of being able to cross a ball from being in front of me, from being there. He could cross a ball in around. He could, so you had to go even closer.
Yeah.
And he's for me at times as a fullback, he would be mostly. I'd remember Mark because he was, it wasn't because he was quick and he could run beyond me or he was tricky and he was doing Ronaldo tricks. It was just because he consistently wanted to run in behind, and it used to do my head in because I knew that if he did get in behind me too often, Steve Bruce would be saying a few things to me, and even the goalkeeper. And you always expected him to say something, and that's what I'm. It's just that consistency of wanting, and it used to do my head in, and I thought I was okay, and about never had to really worry about too many getting behind me, and it worries fullbacks when they've got a player who's going to threaten them. Now, if I'm marking Sancho, I would turn and say it's all right. He's going to do a trick, but he's always going to step back. He's never going to try and get round the touchline unless I really exaggerate, leaving it open.
Yeah.
And not many are going to gamble on that because that's when you could give away corners, maybe give away a penalty, or maybe give away the opportunity to pull a ball back for someone incoming. So I think if you've got someone, a young lad who's hungry, and you've got to remember again, I'm going to say his name. Ryan was 17 when he come in, when he made his debut. Was that right at Everton?
17.
So 17. I'd say you've got to play. They're young, they're hungry, and United have been fortunate. They've had a Ryan Giggs at 17 come in. They went and got a Wayne Rooney at a young age as well, who come in and done really well. Age doesn't mean anything. It's about how much you want to prove a point. And if you want to prove a point up against a 25, a 30-year-old, a 35-year-old fullback by trying to go past them, you want to play like that in your team.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Ten Hag, his time at Ajax has been bringing in young players. Surely, that's what I. Yeah. So it makes sense to me. I think Elanga had that opportunity, and I thought he took it. When he took his foot off the gas, and then he started watching some of the bad pros and what they do, and he felt that was a way of him stepping forward and getting involved, and he got it completely wrong. Instead of doing when Rangnick brought him in and doing what he done from that moment when he got that first opportunity, he stopped doing that. And why do footballers, when they're doing something really good, the right thing, why do they think I'm getting bored doing that? I'm going to go and try something else.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Excuse me. Garnacho's a really good case in point. Looking at the two games, the European games that we've got coming up, because obviously Thursday, Sunday, these games, they changed the way that Ten Hag's going to be looking at his squad selection. My guess this week, Paul, it would be that he's going to take the Thursday game quite seriously and not make that many changes, but then ring the changes in the second half, hopefully with the game taken care of, and then next week's game might be the opposite, where he starts with a weaker side and brings on, the senior players. Obviously, that's the point is being made because United have got a lot of games coming up, and the game at the weekend is Newcastle, and the game after that is at Chelsea. And you wonder if that's the kind of, I think you've talked to me about it before, yes, you do look at the game in front, but United are always looking squad selection. They're looking 2 or 3 games in advance. They're looking at managing the squad in the best kind of way. So do you think that that's how they'll look at that? Or do you think that they'll look at Ammonia, they'll think they gave as good as they were going to give last Thursday, that they gave the best shot. We know what to expect against them. We're not going to be surprised this time round, so we could possibly afford to rotate a little and make some of those changes, like maybe put Garnacho in from the start.
I think you can definitely start with a young lad like that in a game like that. I think you can make that change with that one. I don't think United are in a good enough position to go and make too many changes at the start of anything like that. They can't go and make 3 or 4 changes and go and do that. I just don't think they can at the moment. They're not in a good position to go and do that. And that could end up blowing up in their face again, and the game could become more challenging than what it should be if they
Yeah,
were to go and do that. I could see and we have to say, in the wide areas, Anthony's come in and he's producing. I mean, say that players who have played in the wide position before Anthony arrived have not had any consistency in their game at all. There's been nothing productive coming on a regular basis, not even not even on an interim basis. Really, there's been nothing really there. So I would turn around and say, if you're going to give him a run out there in a wide area and see what he can produce, playing at Old Trafford in front of 70 odd thousand. The way in for the visitors will be packed because,
yeah,
as you know, Cypriots idolise Manchester United. They
yeah,
absolutely love Man. So as much as a lot of them will be coming over and supporting their team, they're still going to love Manchester United. That's one thing Neil Lennon can't control. He can't control the crowd, and he knows their fans are all Manchester United fans, majority of them. So it's going to be a great occasion to bring him in there, but on his own, and not too many others around him. Because sometimes you can bring too many players who need to make a mark, and all of a sudden they're all playing with each other, and there isn't enough around them to help them through the game.
yeah,
So I think at the moment that United can't carry too many big players in there at the moment. As you mentioned, with the opportunity for 5 substitutions now, which I still think is wrong. I think you can use that to go and make those changes. You know, just to then to take off the players who, when the job's done, to
yeah,
go and do that. That's my better way of doing it, rather than all of a sudden you've got to throw players on to save you, and all you're doing from those players you're worried about them getting injured and tired. I hate using that word. Um, you end up those players having to come on the field and chase even harder and work even harder, and that's where you get your injuries because they'll be forced into maybe making challenges or pushing themselves into areas and making challenges what they shouldn't really be making because they're virtually been told to go on and save the game.
yeah. I tend to agree that that United aren't in a position to do that anyway. They need to, I say close the game off. They need to get control of the game before they start taking them for granted for sure. Then after that, it's going to be Newcastle at home. Like you said, it's been a weird start to their season, Paul. They obviously made a few signings. They've tried to sort of play it cute with FFP and everything, so they're not building too extravagantly. They brought in Isaac for a lot of money. Trippier has been a good signing for them. Eddie Howe has done all right for them. They've had one defeat all season. That was very unfortunate at Anfield as well because they lost deep into injury time. They went toe to toe with City and drew 3-3. They now look to be finding their feet. Fulham away, they got very lucky with the early red card, which set the tone for the game, which means, it gave them a platform to win 4-1. They've taken that confidence and they won 5-1 against Brentford at home. And sometimes, when you've been drawing a lot of games, when you've been having that kind of consistency, is like, what's the next result? Is it going to be a win? Does that determine the mood? Does a defeat determine the mood? Is it a good run of draws or a bad run of draws? And it looks like it's been a good run. They look full of confidence. They're going to come to Old Trafford, like you said, thinking that they're going to do what Man City have done in the last few years, and they're going to be the next big thing. They're going to be bigger than United, so they're going to be full of confidence. And it makes it another massive test for Ten Hag, and a good test, really, considering we've just played City and we've just played Everton and we've come through these tests. These are all good tests for him to face at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are, and I'm sure in certain ways he's quite enjoying it because he's never been tested like this as manager of Ajax.
Yeah,
Not at all. He's getting all different brands of football thrown at him as well, which you find in the Dutch league. Everything's very similar because it's all geared towards their national team,
yeah,
the way they do set up or the way they want to deliver their football. So it's a test. I think the fans. I think he's seen the fan side of things. Everything's different to what he's used to. So he will look forward to this, and he just knows at the back of it, he goes and gets a result and a performance in this game. Then that's taken a step forward because I think I think most United fans know that that City are far away, too far away at this moment in time. At the
Yeah,
moment, we have to look at the league and go, you know, the league's there for who's going to finish second, and not a great thing to come out and say when you talk about your major domestic league, but it's a fact. So you have to fight for that second spot, and you have to be the best of the rest, and you have to be better the second best of the rest by by a big way to really prove a point that you're going forward.
yeah,
So it pushes everything on, and maybe for them upstairs to understand that this is what he's got, and he needs resources at the right time. Not at the end, not at the end of the day, at the start of the day, so he can
yeah,
go there because the point's been proven. You've got everyone sitting there chomping at the bit who might want to come and get involved because they can maybe just feel something's happening with the club again, and that's what he's got, and that's what he's got to aim for. Really, we've seen it already. what's happening? What's happening in football with owners? We're seeing issues with other clubs. We've seen all of a sudden Liverpool, who didn't go down the Sir Alex way of doing things, because I think they've struggled a little bit on the finance side. That's made a difference in a way. They can manage what's on the pitch, but they haven't gone and bought within. They haven't tried to build. He hasn't gone and tried to build a team while he's got a team that's doing well.
yeah,
And now it's been kind of found out in a certain way. It's been seen now with injuries and the way the some players have digressed over a certain amount of time. So at the moment, United, as much as that was horrible, that City result, when you have to look at it, you have to put that to bed and you have to accept that. I mean, it isn't nice when you're talking about the people just 4 or 5 miles away, but it's a fact, and it can't compete at the moment with them.
yeah,
Cannot compete.
yeah. No, I've said I was on a different podcast yesterday. I said exactly the same kind of thing. You've got to look at that, and you can't say it's a good thing that we lost 6-3 and we were 6-1 down at one point, and at one point it looked like it might be worse than that. You can't pretend that it didn't happen, and you've got to use it as. I'm not necessarily saying a yardstick because then you might say that that's an unreasonable um, level to aim at with the resources that other clubs have got, but at the same time, it was a reminder of how far away United are. Even though they've done well under Ten Hag, I think that he's doing a good job so far. There is still a reminder of the distance between them, and it's still a reminder that it's a work in progress, and the squad is still a composite of different parts, and the manager is working to get the best sort of solution from that. Um, I do want to talk about not this week, but maybe in a couple of weeks after Chelsea. It'd be a good idea to sort of have a sort of 10-minute section on the podcast where we talk about how well Ten Hag's done so far. You know, after we've seen a longer reaction to the City game, and we can see another big game against Chelsea and see how we've fared at that point. But we will be here next week to talk about the European game against Ammonia and the visit of Newcastle to sort of see where United are at the moment in those games as well. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please give it a like and subscribe on YouTube. Really appreciate that. It really helps us out, and share the video as well. That would really help us out. If you've enjoyed, give us a comment, and we'll get back to you on the comment section. And if you've enjoyed listening back on the audio podcast, please be sure to give a subscription and a review on the platform you're listening on. We'll be back next week, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and take care.